Let's build.
Yes. All them little son boy we are going on and go on like so well then them are the champion. Let me tell you this, I will electrocute the son boy and let them hold them corner. Cause when it come to music is we are the gargants, so come.
My name is Eve Darbouz, and this is the Pan-African Product. Today, I want to talk to you. I want to have a conversation that is important. It's important because this whole process, the creating of this channel, the writing of this book, Leave Operationalizing the Pan-African State by yours truly, Eve Darbouz. That's me. And I wrote this book for those who do read it or for those who consume this content. I want you to absorb audacity. You know what gives you audacity to do certain things? What gives you audacity is preparation. If you are prepared, if your mind is already going through the process of thinking things through, okay, we get 54 leaders to the table. What do we offer them? What are we building first? What is the structure of this? What am I giving up? What does my country have to pay? Right? I've listened to African Union meetings. They're arguing over who's going to fund them because almost every single country on their own is to a certain degree poor, right? Algeria is in the top. Egypt is in the top. Nigeria is in the top. South Africa is in the top. The Congos, all these countries are the richest countries in Africa, and all of them have severe poverty problems. Every single one of them, right? So if we get to the place that we need to be, if we talk sense into the 54, 55, 56, whatever, if we could reach the scattered nations of Africa and get them to see the folly of operating as scattered, nationalistic, ridiculous countries that end up desperate. That's why you have corruption. That's why you have crime. Because you don't have a ball field. Because you're not producing half the world's soccer talent like you could. If you just had high school sports, forget about what youth level sports would do for you. Athletic clubs. If Africa had the consumers to do it, it would look a lot like the West. There's no secret to what they're doing. It's just access. Can you access it? Half the technologies that are revolutionizing some of these other countries come from other countries. It's not that they're so much more advanced, it's access. The important thing that we're talking about, the thing that I want your minds to be able to envision in your head is the 5 infrastructure. This is important. The 5 infrastructure project priorities, right? So we do it. We come together and agree upon rules for a currency. We begin to mint our currency. Now, our currency's minting process is different. We've decentralized the printing of our currency because we know there are rogue nations with the audacity to bomb them, to bomb our mint. So you'd have to decentralize it to make it where no matter what threatens Africa, whatever threatens Africa, these things not only stand up, but these are the necessary infrastructure for us to produce to be able to even defend ourselves. How do you mobilize military if you have shoddy communications? How do you plan or communicate for building a highway? Like all these things, you need to know what is step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 based off of Africa's unique circumstances. So let's do it. This is going to be a quick one, I hope. Number 1, it's not number 1 for everybody, but it's number 1 for Africa. It's energy, right? It doesn't matter what kind of energy. It could be gas. It could be nuclear, right? It could be nuclear. It could be solar, wind, hydro, right? But energy and the problems of energy now as a continent, we can start thinking about a grid that has no weak points, a grid that's always feeding itself. The Sahara has too much sun to not just have the greatest solar farms ever created. For those places not to be the places where we store energy, as well as capitalize on the sheer size of the Sahara. It just makes too much sense, and energy has to be solved first before we can build dependably. Before we can have dependable connectivity, you need to have the energy sorted and on the continent. And I've seen enough to realize how dire it is. But a lot of it is colonial. A lot of it isn't malfeasance on Native African parts. A lot of it is just, this is the way you control the people. And again, those are the actions of a country in desperation, and that's not who we are, right? Number two, this wouldn't be number two in most countries, but it would be number two in Africa because what we're trying to accomplish, and that's connectivity, right? Right? Connectivity is critically important, not only on the ability to get connected, but the connectivity of land, satellite, wireless. The 5G in a Pan-African state would have to be flawless, and one of them would have to be free. That's right. The entire continent has to be connected, and it has to operate free. It sounds impossible. It's very possible, and it doesn't take any money out of the pockets of the better systems. It's going to be your standard, basic, everyday people internet, and that's necessary because you have a digital currency. Everyone is going to be making transaction from wallet to digital wallet, and if we're going to be a digital first currency country, which we are, which is Africa's future, regardless of whether anyone looks at my plan or any other plan. But connectivity has to be bulletproof. We start where it has to be bulletproof, and then we expand further. Like I said, we don't want to own all of connectivity. It's I think a strong nation is a nation that ensures certain things: healthcare, education, connectivity is right up there because connectivity is information. Connectivity is access. So in order to do that, and in order to have that, connectivity has to be high on the Pan-African priorities in infrastructure. Right now, the next one's going to seem more obvious and usually is higher up on the list, but it's roads transport. Africa has to have some of the most ambitious road projects. You have to connect the northernmost point of Tunisia to the southernmost point of South Africa. You need to be able to go from Senegal to the Horn of Africa. This is the only way your country, the product that we're trying to build here, the only way we get this product, mobilized, is if you have roads. Your roads are the arteries of your country's body, right? The geography, the be able to travel from one place to another. And we can't even begin to think about the commerce projects that we're thinking about until we have a solid roads plan that connects all of these states together. It's critical. It's critical. You can't move forward without roads that operate in a way that doesn't just go to ports and dump things off. You need roads to take children to school. You need roads to lead to malls and market centers, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be what we have in the West, with shopping malls and things of that nature. Swap meets, the highest form of technology for a shopping experience. But we need roads that interconnect our lives. And the nice thing about doing it in these modern times is you have Chinese engineering, you have Russian engineering, you have cooperative European engineering that can better lay roads than we've ever had. A lot of the challenges that we would have had in creating those roads, creating those arteries, those veins inside the body of the country that's creating all these connective points. It's the most liberating part of Pan-Africanism. It's the thing that really could change us, and it's number 3. It's deadly necessary, but we need grand federal highways. We need to be right alongside of those federal highways. There should be trains and being laid, like the connectivity. If we're gonna lay our own fiber, and what that is critical to the whole thing, we can no longer have the internet from the West. We can't accept their satellites. We can't accept any of their things, because when we need them, they'll turn them off. In our times of greatest needs, they will shut those services off. So Africa has to launch satellites. Africa has to build roads, lay fiber, lay new forms of fiber. Fiber created in Africa from African materials. These, it may not be step A, but it should be a next step in the next large road building projects. On one side it's the road, on the other side it's the pipes that have the fiber in it, all the way from the tip of Tunisia, all the way down to the bottom of South Africa. We 2 roads that travels that way, that connects us that way. You're gonna have Grand Prix and all of that on that joint. You know what I mean? Like it's super important, right? Now, this is typically more important. It's critical in Africa. But to do it properly, we're gonna need the things that we've done already. But water and waste. We now Africa can't think about these things nationalistically. It can't just be about South Africa's water and South Africa's waste. Countries that don't have water should never not have water, because there's countries in Africa that have too much water. We need to be able to share that. Water is not a commodity. It is a God-given right. It is something natural. It's a pact between human and its environment. Some environments have to respect water more. Some don't. But they both need strong management. They both need federal planning. Where are we going to dump this stuff? How are we going to deal with our sewage? And we should guarantee to everyone's homes clean water. That is the job of the Pan-African state, to provide clean water. It's one of our most basic jobs. It would be a part of our environmental services. And every African on the continent has the right to clean water. Could you imagine a government guaranteeing that? We got to do it. We have to do it. So water and waste kind of being together, but it is hugely necessary. Now, some people might think this is connectivity. It's not. Data, not just data. We have to be able to handle video. We have to be able to handle streaming. These databases, or these network operating centers, we used to call them NOCs back in the day. They have all kinds of names. But you see, because it wasn't in the plans for when they were creating the grids in the United States for all of these data centers across the United States that sucks up energy, that's not self-sustainable. Well, guess what? The Pan-African state is going to need those databases, not just for things like AI and, the brain power of the future robots who's going to rule you. The databases are everywhere, and they're poorly planned, and they're not built into the infrastructure. They're not going to suck the energy from the infrastructure. They're going to suck it from the people. Pause. They are going to have challenges here in the United States with more need for the processing power and the databases that stores all of this stuff. All your email and the junk email too has to be stored somewhere, right? There has to be places that are getting its own independent energy, that are built into the systems, and communities manage them. there's going to be needs for all kinds of jobs to be created, and that's the other thing. Central to all of this, we're going to need the tools to be able to find each other. I'm working on something called Co-Opportunity at coopportunity.org, and it's a matchmaking site, but not for dating. It's a matchmaking skills, opportunities to people, to African people, specifically for African people. And because I think there's nothing but green field. That's in tech. When someone says there's nothing but green field, that means go to town. No one's in your way. Build whatever you like. And quite honestly, that's Africa. So let's talk about the 5 again and before we close out. Infrastructure. What are the 5 project priorities? We'll start at the top. Energy. No more rolling blackouts. No more half the day you have electricity, half of the day you don't. I want energy to be everywhere. I want to be using all of the best technologies. China does it, we'll do it. The United States does it, we'll do it twice as good. We know what the pitfalls are. We know what the best technologies are. And we're starting, in some cases, from scratch. We have to trade our resources for know-how, nuclear, wind, water. The rivers alone in Africa make it possible. It's there for it to be had, but we need to cooperate. The bordering nations need to be able to talk to each other. And in order to do so, it has to be something in it for them. For the Pan-African state, we have no motivations to have rolling blackouts. In some other places in Africa, it's part of the political control. It's part of the class system. But in what we're doing, it's not. Energy, connectivity, we will be connected. Not just we will be connected. We will be connected through our own ISPs, through our own services, our own satellites, our own fiber. It's mandatory. It's the only way to be free. And because we are a digital currency first, we're going to need lots of connectivity. The roads and the transportation, super important. I cannot wait for the race, the Grand Prix that starts in Tunisia and ends in South Africa. It's coming. It's going to happen, right? Water, clean water for everyone, everywhere, and waste. No more open sewers. No more leading to rivers and banks for the sewage. We have better ways of doing this. We have better tools. We have better technology. And we should be at the forefront. And we can't be the people that we've been. We're better than the people that we've been. We bring in the foremost experts. We don't need, it's one country. We don't need 50 of them. We need 5 that have progressed, that have created technologies that might have been not have been looked at. We bring them to Africa, we give them loads of money, and we build these things. Not only do we give them loads of money, but they, in exchange for that money, they teach our children. They teach our young men. We better have ideas for all of these, like 60% of our population, right? Over a billion, I was about to say trillion. A trillion is my favorite word now. Over a billion young people under 25. We better be coming with projects for them to do. And these are the 5. They're doable, right? The data is the last one. We're not going to think of where to put our data centers late. We know we need them. We need about 1,000 per country, right? That's 50,000 data centers. That's just the bare bones minimum. That's all the things that we did before is to get to that 5th thing. And from there, having these things, cities and communities will emerge that will be the envy of the world. We can do this. This eventually, this is what we do. We just have to think it. Once we start thinking it, when we start talking to each other about it, we can argue about this list, what goes first, what goes second. I think this is the way you would go, because you can't have one without the other, and in Africa some of these things are shoddy, or they're not where they should be. And no disrespect, they're not where they should be. This is where we're aspiring to be. My name is Yves Darbouz, and again, this is the Pan-African Product.